Okay, let's get on to the sort of elephant in the room that we've touched upon a bit, the Saka injury. Arteta said many weeks it's looking maybe till February. We don't know for sure, but maybe February, maybe a bit longer than that. First off, how big a blow is this?
Massive. Absolutely massive. It really is. I mean, I think we've all feared it for a long time that it's going to happen at some point, because Saka's just he's a machine. He's a robot. He's managed to stay largely injury free. He's never had a bad injury. You know, when he has been out, it's just been for a couple of weeks. And so Arsenal are just so used to him being there every week to be able to try and pull something out of the bag and to be that guy, to be, you know, the linchpin of the attack. And everyone's just been so used to it. It's just been such a constant for so long since he broke into the team. And now this is the first time that they're going to have to try and find a way to win, and not just win, but keep winning without him over a massive, you know, a really large period of time, crucial part of the season. And so it is just a massive play. Everything goes through Bukayo Saka in attack. And you look at, I mean, it's not exactly, he's not scored huge amounts of goals this season, but he's contributed to pretty much, you know, it must be a massive majority of Arsenal's goals. He's either set them up or he's scored, or he's played a key part in the goal, in the build-up. And everything goes through him. And that right-hand side from Arsenal is just so integral to what they do. So it's a huge blow. And, you know, Mikel Arteta admitted it as much when he spoke about it in the press conference. But he did try and sort of look at it from another point of view and say, look, it's an opportunity. We're going to have to find a way. And they are. That's the key thing is now, as much as it's a blow, and everyone's going to be disappointed. Saka, I'm sure, is going to be absolutely devastated because he's never had to deal with something like this before. But Arsenal can't afford to feel sorry for themselves. They've got to find a way to win. They kind of managed it for a bit when Odegaard went out, and then it began to get too much for them. They can't afford for that to happen again. They have to continue winning and doing it every single week, because Liverpool aren't going to be dropping many points. That's pretty clear. So if they want to stay in this title race, they've got to find a way to win without him and find some goals and find some creativity and find some just for Saka's that guy for Arsenal who will step up in a key moment when things aren't going well, when they need someone to create something, to do something out of nothing. It's invariably him, whether that be a goal, whether it be the perfect delivery. You know, what we've seen from him, cutting in on the left foot, bending to the back post, and someone getting on the end of it and scoring. They need someone else to be that big moment guy now in the attack. And it's going to be interesting if they can find one.
Yeah, it feels like he's sort of grown more as a leader this season as well, and over the last couple of seasons as well. But that, not just his ability on the ball, but the leadership qualities. And I suppose you could group that in with what we spoke about when Odegaard was out and how much Arsenal missed him. He's obviously a leader and has got that incredible ability on the ball. I mean, when Odegaard was out and Arsenal had those issues, we were speaking about how he was the most important player, the one Arsenal couldn't afford to lose. I suppose you would probably group Gabriel and Saliba in that category as well, but Saka's certainly, in terms of attacking, is right up there with Odegaard in terms of players you can't really replace.
No, I mean, he's one of Arsenal's best players. I mean, every team has got their best players, haven't they? That you just can't really afford to be without. You know, Manchester City, we've seen they can't afford to be without Rodri. We've seen what's happened since Rodri's got injured. If Liverpool were to lose Mo Salah for 3 months, you know, it'd be a huge blow to them. And, you know, and that's why there's always a talk about has Saka been overplayed and all that, which I can understand. But it's his first injury in 4 or 5 years, you know, and he's one of Arsenal's best players. So he's just always going to play because he's one of the best players in the team. And I think they've actually, this season of all seasons, they've actually tried to manage his minutes more, and they have managed his minutes more better than they have previously, but it's still not been enough. And, you know, on the back of a summer tournament as well, you know, we've seen so many players falling short with these injuries now this season, and it's happened to Saka. So it's going to be interesting to see what Arsenal do and how they do cope with him. You know, there's no immediate sort of backup to him in the squad. They've brought Raheem Sterling in. He's got injured at the same time. I don't think he would have really been the answer anyway, to be honest. But he probably would have got more minutes than we've seen. But now even he's not going to be an option because of the injury. So they're going to have to work out what they do. You know, we talked about Jesus and being that central striker, but he can play right. He did it for Manchester City. He's done it well at times for Arsenal, playing over there. So he could be the option. Gabriel Martinelli. A lot of people have wanted to see Martinelli play on the right a little bit more than he has done. You know, even in game at times, sort of swap over him and Saka when things aren't working. I think we saw Martinelli play on the right against Crystal Palace. He did pretty well. He's certainly going to be, I think he's probably my favourite option for now anyway, to fill in. but it's going to be, the squad are going to have to take this on their shoulders now, and they're going to have to step up and try and fill the void. It's going to be a really tough ask for Arsenal. I mean, for the title race, I think it's impossible for me to sit here and say now they've got as good a chance as they had a week ago of catching Liverpool. They haven't. Their title chances have taken a huge blow, a huge hit with this injury. There's no doubt about that. Arne Slot will be licking his lips, I'm absolutely sure, sitting back at Liverpool, seeing the news, and all Liverpool players will as well. Knowing that Arsenal are going to be without Saka for 3 months, it's a massive blow to their title chances.
And not just their title chances. If he's out till February as expected, and maybe that's best case scenario, that's FA Cup third round against Man United he's missing. In the Premier League, he's missing North London Derby, Man City, missing both EFL Cup semi-finals legs. He's missing both remaining Champions League games. I mean, you don't want to overblow it. They might be able to cope without it, but it is a big blow, not just to the title hopes, but to silverware hopes in all
silverware. Yeah, absolutely, silverware hopes. 100%. You're right. You point out the semi-final against Newcastle coming up over 2 legs. I mean, it's going to be a much tougher ask without Bukayo Saka now, and they've handed a really horrible FA Cup draw as well that they're going to have to deal with. But it is what it is, isn't it? It's happened now, and it's just about finding a way to deal with it. Arsenal still got good players. They beat Man City last season, I remember, at home for the first time in so many years, and that was without Bukayo Saka. They had Jesus playing on the right, I think, that day as well. So they can win without Bukayo Saka. There's no doubt they can win. They've got the players who can help them cope. But I think the key thing is just the length of time that he's going to be out. It's not just winning a couple of games. It's winning consistently at the crucial stage of the season. Like you said, when it's silverware is now on the line, and it's winning and winning consistently for those 2 or 3 months. So they're going to be a weaker team. There's no doubt about it. They're going to be a weaker team. They're still going to be a strong team, and I think they'll still win plenty of games. But it's really, really damaged their chances, I think, of winning significant silverware this season.
So, I mean, what's your first choice front three without him?
Well, I think for now, I'd move Martinelli to the right, and I'd continue to having Jesus, just because of the form Jesus is in up top. I think it would be a shame to move him out to the right hand side. So I think I probably would play, certainly for Ipswich, and see how it goes. Martinelli on the right, Jesus up front, probably Trossard on the left, and Havertz sort of behind with Martin Odegaard. There's still goals there, and I think that's probably what I would look for initially. But I think Jesus on the right is definitely an interesting option. I think it's definitely an option we'll see Mikel Arteta use as well. I mean, he said in his press conference he's actually not sure what he's going to do yet. I'm not sure that's true. I'm sure he's probably got a fair idea, but he said he's still sort of mulling over the different options that he's got, and he's going to talk to the players and see what they're comfortable with, which I thought was quite interesting when he was saying that. But I'm sure he's got a pretty clear idea in his head, to be honest, even though he's not telling us, of certainly for Ipswich in the first couple of games, what he will try and do to see if it works. And it wouldn't surprise me if Martinelli's on the right. Martinelli starts on the right.
Do you think this could rush him into Nwaneri starting a few more games, or will he just hold fire and do what's best for the long term rather than being rushed into that?
I think he'll do what's best for the long term. I think we'll see more minutes from him. I think he's had it. It's been interesting watching Nwaneri for the last, certainly with his substitute appearance against Everton, and the start in the EFL game against Palace when he got taken off at half time, and he really did struggle in those 2 games. I thought, when he was on the pitch, in terms of where he should be on the pitch, his positioning, he did drift out to the right a lot, certainly for the cup game as well, and that just sort of left a big gaping hole. And I wasn't surprised when he didn't come out for the second half. But I think for him that'll be a really key part of his development, and he needs to know, at 17, it's not all highs, isn't it? You're going to have to deal with lows, and I think those lows are almost as important to any player's development at that age than the highs are. And we will see him play more minutes. But I think those 2 games, those 2 appearances, are certainly a bit of an eye-opener to some Arsenal fans, of like that he is just still a 17-year-old kid, and it is very, very important to remember that. So I can't imagine Mikel is just going to throw all the pressure of, right, we've lost Bukayo Saka, our best player, let's put on a 17-year-old Ethan Nwaneri to try and handle, sort of cope without him. So I think he'll be very wary of doing that, but I do think we'll see more minutes from Nwaneri, and he's definitely an option. When you look at the squad, if you want someone to play on that right-hand side who can come in on his left foot, there's no real better option that Arsenal have than Ethan. But I still don't think, again, as Mikel said, it's probably not going to be like for like. It's going to be finding a different way to play in Saka's absence.
Yeah, and just finally on Saka, you touched on it. I mean, does it raise questions? Should we be asking the question of how much football Saka has played up to this point? And I know there's an element of hindsight about that because he's got this injury now, but there has been talk about it for a couple of seasons now about, League Cup games that he didn't necessarily need to be playing the full match on or most of the match in. Is that a conversation we should be having, or is it just bad luck? Every player gets injuries and this is just one of those.
Well, they do then. That's the thing. I mean, and like you said, we've been talking about it for a couple of seasons, but he's not been injured while we've been talking about it. So, he's 23, 24 now, and this is his first significant injury. 23, I think he is. First significant injury. So players get injured. They're always going to get injured. And I think it's easy to lots of people now will point the finger and say, "Oh, well, I told you so." But it's like, yeah, but you've been sort of telling us so for the last 4 years, and he's not been injured. He's a winger. Wingers get hamstring injuries. It just happens. And I think there's definitely been opportunities when Arsenal could have used him less, and Mikel could have used him less in games. Like when some games he's not been playing, and then they're 3-0 up and they've brought him on. He's like, do you need to do that? Probably not. But he is Arsenal's best player, or one of Arsenal's best player, and the best players in teams play the majority of the games, and it's just what happens. It's like when he goes to England, he's one of England's best players, so the England manager will play him, much to the annoyance of Arsenal fans, but they will play him because he's one of the best players in the England squad. So hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But I think at just some point this was just going to happen, and it happens, and they've got to deal with it right now. And fingers crossed for Arsenal, they do.